Ironically, what happened is I was obviously at work and I left, and I decided to go out to this, gravel pit where I've had some luck finding some unusual, I guess, things that obviously generated some, interest and some excitement in terms of, rock hounding. I went out there and obviously parked my vehicle kind of on the outs of the gate of that pit, and obviously I've got my air tag affixed to my Beamer key, and I get to this final spot. I'm gonna stop and look for stuff. It's a rock pile kind of at the end of the line. After that I'm gonna go back, and I just obviously I'm climbing the pile and my arm hits my sweat jacket pocket, and I'm like, where are my car keys? And so at that point I'm like, are they in the pile? I look in the pile. Obviously I've moved rocks and stuff as I've climbed it. Nope. I'm like, well, I did leave my phone tucked away in my car, and my car is locked. Shit. So what I do is I'm able to get into my vehicle and get my phone, and I realize, well, it didn't update my AirTag location since I left work. So obviously I start initiating a call to Apple support to see if there's a way I can find a workaround to have it update its location, because that Find My on those items is very convenient. It's able to obviously give you a gist of the location. When you're within a couple of thousand or a few thousand feet of it, it can direct you to it. So I'm a minute or two into being on hold waiting for an Apple support person, when lo and behold, I'm just obviously retracing my steps. If it's on the flats of this area, meaning an area that's just flat sand and gravel, I'll be scanning till it's dark out. But I obviously think, well, it's on the pile. Where else have I kind of been in a position where my body wasn't flat, wasn't at a 180 degree angle? And obviously I just start looking around. 2 minutes into it, the corner of my eye, I catch it. I catch my Beamer key and the AirTag, and I'm like, well, I guess Delhi's not going to need my help, not going to need me for help today. So I hang up the phone, and I'm like, well, that's good news. So obviously, but on the way back, I'm just driving here, and I've been kind of thinking about just human history, about the rise and fall of civilizations. We've seen some be top dog and then not become top dog. We've seen China when it was in a position when Europe was still in the Dark Ages. China had an immense trade network. They had treasure ships that made the Mayflower when Columbus supposedly sailed the ocean blue. They make Columbus's cross adorned ships look like a smart car versus a smart car versus a Tahoe. I mean, we need to put things into perspective, but more importantly, when I look at human history, I find that one of the most strongest, motivators for upset, for innovation, for change, no matter what time, what place, what region, what problem, what oppression, has always been adversity. I mean, when you look at the regions, the nations that have historical, I guess, societal pain, a lot of them are not former colonial powers. And what I mean by that is, obviously, you look at England, the UK, you look at Spain. The only really unique one that has had a big upheaval is, frankly, Russia. Russia had the revolution during their involvement in the First World War that made their nation become communist. And obviously we all know that. But that country was the only one that you can see, like, yeah, they had a royal family, whatever. Albeit, Germany had, the Austrians and stuff, and the Habsburgs, all that. That was obviously Austria-Hungary. But you look at England has never really had like their, period, especially modern sense, meaning, 40s onward. America was a former colonial possession of England, at least in terms of the 13, eastern seaboard colonies. Spain, the viceroyalty of New Spain, and obviously New Mexico, Utah, all the way up into California. Then you obviously had the land that was acquired via the Louisiana Purchase. That was New France. And those are all, previous colonial possessions. When you look into, France and Spain and England, you don't see a lot of the same divides. Of course, there are marginalized groups, there are stuff like that, but America had slavery, they had segregation, obviously the outlaw of LGBT rights. You look at, South Africa was a former colonial possession of, England, the UK, and they had the apartheid. Nelson Mandela, all that. You look at Ireland. Ireland obviously was in the British Isles, but Northern Ireland obviously not a primary power. You look at South America, Central America, all the turmoil, the juntas, the communism, the right-wing authoritarianism, even you see in Brazil, you see a lot of stuff in Colombia, Venezuela. All that was all former colonial possessions, and you get the point. Obviously, colonialism in and of itself almost just kind of muddled up the world in a way, and I find it just extremely interesting topic to think about on my way home on Highway 7, frankly.